You know, on the surface, this is a story about a new bus lane. Simple enough, right? But when you start digging, you find this 20-year saga of controversy, insane cost overruns, environmental showdowns, and some wild last-minute political deals. This isn't just about buses, it's about a $100 million gamble on the California coast.
So, let's just start with a basic question. I want you to picture this. You need to build a dedicated bus-only lane. It's just over 6 miles long, and its whole purpose is to bypass some of the worst traffic you can imagine. Take a guess. What do you think the price tag on something like that would be?
Okay, you ready for this? The official budget, as of late 2024, is over $105 million. Yeah, that breaks down to more than $16 million per mile. And believe it or not, as we're about to see, even that staggering number is a huge point of contention.
So why on earth would anyone spend this kind of money? Well, the project is trying to solve a very, very real problem: the absolutely soul-crushing traffic on Highway 1, which is the main artery connecting Salinas and the Monterey Peninsula.
Now, the SURF project isn't just your standard bus route. It's what's called a bus rapid transit, or BRT system. And the secret sauce, the whole point, is that 6.2-mile exclusive guideway. The whole idea is, if buses can completely zip past all the gridlock on their own private road, they suddenly become way faster and more reliable than driving. And maybe, just maybe, that convinces more of us to leave our cars at home.
But this idea has been kicking around for a long time. It all started way back in 2003. The local planning agency, TAMC, bought up this old defunct railway line. And this is crucial. They used state funds that were specifically earmarked for rail service, not buses. Well, for years, the train idea went nowhere. So by 2017, the plan officially shifted to buses, and that's what really set the stage for all the conflict to come.
All right, let's get into the first major point of conflict: the money. From the very beginning, there's been this massive debate, not just about whether the project is worth the cost, but what the actual cost even is.
So that $100 million+ budget, it's basically a cocktail of public money. You've got almost $49 million from the state of California, over $27 million from local sales taxes, and more than $24 million in federal grants. So really, no matter where you live, there's a pretty good chance that some of your tax dollars are in this mix.
And here is the absolute heart of the budget battle. Monterey-Salinas Transit, or MST, they're the agency running the show. They put the cost at about $105 million. But opponents, like the group Keep Fort Ord Wild, they argue that the official budget conveniently leaves out huge expenses. Things like removing the old rail line, dealing with environmental damage, big construction at intersections. Their estimate, somewhere between $185 and nearly $250 million. Two totally different stories.
But beyond the money, the biggest battle for the SURF project has been its head-on collision with one of California's most powerful agencies, the Coastal Commission. Their whole job is to protect the state's coastline, and they do not mess around.
And here's the thing. This fight was not a surprise. For 5 straight years, the Coastal Commission staff repeatedly told the agency that their plan, which cut right through environmentally sensitive dune habitat, was basically a non-starter. But the agency just kept pushing ahead anyway.
It all came to a dramatic head in July of 2024. The commission staff released this absolutely blistering report, and they said, in no uncertain terms, quote, "This particular project is not approvable under the law." I mean, that was it. It looked like after 2 decades of planning and $100 million raised, the SURF busway was officially dead in the water.
But then, just when it seemed like the whole thing was over, a really surprising political maneuver completely turned the tables. So the day after that disastrous report came out, State Senator John Laird got on the phone. He basically pulled everyone into a room: the transit agency, the transportation agency that owned the land, and the Coastal Commission staff. And he had each side state their one non-negotiable goal. For the Coastal Commission, it was simple: minimize damage to the dunes. For the transportation agency, it was keeping the dream of a future train alive. And out of that, somehow, they hammered out a compromise.
The result was a fundamental redesign of the entire project. The original plan, was to build the busway next to the old railroad tracks, which would have just carved up a much wider chunk of the dunes. The new plan? Just build the busway directly on top of the tracks, literally paving them over. This one simple change drastically reduced the project's environmental footprint, making it approvable and saving the whole thing from totally collapsing.
But you know, getting that stamp of approval from the Coastal Commission wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. The SURF busway's journey is far from over,
and it's still facing a whole new set of obstacles.
Okay, first, there's a funding crunch. Because of all the delays, the project missed a huge deadline and got less than half the federal money it asked for. That forced a bailout with other state funds. Then there's a federal lawsuit from a local business owner. He's alleging retaliation for pointing out that, hey, the original land purchase was for trains, not buses. On top of that, there's even conflict with state parks, which blocked a planned pedestrian path, forcing yet another redesign. And finally, the transportation agency still has to figure out how to settle its debt to the state for using those rail-only funds on a bus project. It's a lot.
So, with all these costs and all this controversy, what's the potential payoff here? Well, supporters project that by the year 2045, the SURF busway will lead to about 1.7 million trips a year. That's an increase of 380,000 trips compared to doing nothing. And they say that translates to taking about 500 cars off that congested highway every single day.
And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? Proponents say this is a visionary investment that's going to ease traffic and slash emissions. But opponents see a massively expensive boondoggle that paves over a historic railway for a bus line they think will be underused. So, is this a bold step into the future of public transit, or is it just a very, very costly gamble? It's a story that really captures the challenges facing projects like this all across the country, and it's a question communities everywhere are grappling with.